is of community interest and or of some concern. And if you think that you have something which fits into that category, you'd like to find out how you can be a part of the program, well, why not to drop us a line, address it to Let's Talk program in care of Vaughan Radio, P.O. Box 195 Charlestown in Nevis, or give us a call. Our numbers are 1-869-469-1616 and or 1700. By the way, those will be the numbers that you'll use to be a part of this evening's discussion. Again, thank you very much for joining us. This is your voice in the community, Thought That Get Results. With regards to your participation in the show, we encourage you to call in on the numbers listed 1-869-469-1616 and or 1700. Here's a suggestion. You got a question or a comment? Perhaps you can get a pencil, piece of paper, write it down so that when you're getting on the show, you're well organized and you take as little time as possible so that we can accommodate as many of you as we can. We ask only, first of all, that you respect yourselves and then respect others, because we will not accept anything we deem not within our broadcast standards. Again, thank you all very much for joining us. This is your voice in the community, Thought That Get Results. Also, we encourage you to follow us on your on the Facebook streaming and also on our YouTube. So you go into YouTube, you sign in to a subscription to us, and you follow us live in this show. Also, on your Facebook page, you like us as well, and you follow the video streaming. Tonight, Edric W. Stanley, good evening.
Good evening, Webbo. Good evening to my fellow panelists. Good evening to the people of St. Kitts, and of course the gracious people of Nevis, those who will be listening to us on the World Wide Web, and those who will be viewing us on Facebook and on YouTube. And of course, we hope that these two additional medium would have increased our viewership, because we do have something, most of the time, substantive to say, not only for local consumption or regional consumption, but from an international point of view. Because, of course, we looked at that swearing ceremony of that judge. It was quite fascinating. And those who, of course, would have always criticized our big sister up north, especially lawyers, would have learnt something with regard to those questioning, and would have seen some real smart lawyers questioning the judge and be part of that process. But like I've said, I've always believed in our big sister up north, United States of America. And I always said if I had a magic wand, I would have taken it and used it to get everybody from Nevis, St. Kitts, placed them there for a while, and to have brought them back locally. Anyhow, good evening, Webbo. I have a few things to put on the table this evening.
Conrad Nair-Liebert, good evening.
Good evening, Webbo, and good evening to your staff here at Vaughan Radio, to my colleagues around the table. Pleasant good evening, and everyone in tune to this program, my friends in Connecticut, Toronto. Pleasant good evening to everyone this evening. Webbo, once again, we're here to discuss the issues affecting the people, and as always, pleasure to be here, and I look forward to a healthy debate this evening. Webbo, thanks.
Dr. Patricia Bartlett, good evening.
Good evening, Webbo. Good evening to my fellow panelists. I would like to just say good evening to the entire listening and viewing audiences, and a special mention of Anne and Pam and Mr. Martin in St. Thomas, my husband in the UK, and all the other people who are listening to us in the USA, Canada, and worldwide. Good evening.
And Senior Counsel Ted Hobson, good evening.
Good evening, Webbo, and good evening to my fellow panelists. First of all, I want to apologize for the absence of the Honorable Spencer Brand, who's away on official duty, and he has asked me to convey his regret that he couldn't be here tonight. Webbo, it's always a great honor to be on this program, and hopefully we'll have a good discussions tonight and able to speak to the people of Nevis and the people of St. Kitts and the people who are listening wild world, diaspora, all the people from who listen in England and in America, all over the world. Webbo, it's great that we could reach these people and talk to them and let them know what is happening in this fair land of ours.
Ted Hobson, Dr. Patricia Bartlett, Conrad Nye Liburd, Edric W. Stanley. They're the heavyweights, they're in. Your phone calls a little later on 1-869-469-1616 and or 1700. We'll be back after these.
Queen City, Nevis, this is the powerhouse of the Eastern Caribbean, Vaughn Radio.
Looking for a place you can go to and relax and enjoy a healthy meal? Check out Island Life Vegetarian Food and Juice Bar located at Penny's Industrial Site below the supply office. They are open Monday to Friday from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. They offer you healthy, delicious, nutritious food on a menu that boasts Ital food, sandwiches, burgers, roti, puddings, and much more. They have a wide variety of freshly squeezed fruit and vegetable juices and smoothies that includes beet, carrot, pumpkin, tamarind, star apple, and sarsaparilla, and much more. Contact them today at 660-5318 or 668-3107. Tiles, and more tiles. Builders Paradise is the largest supplier of tiles. Tiles from as little as $3.95. Tile cement, 50-pound bag from as little as $37.44. And oh, don't forget to check out their Saturday sale for even better discounts. Visit them today at C.A. Paul Southwell Industrial Site, St. Kitts, or call them at 466-4938. Builders Paradise, where your island dreams begin.
Back on this episode of Thought That Get Results with Dr. Patricia Bartlett, Ted Hobson, Conrad Nye Liburd, and Edric W. Stanley. Edric, you said that you're following up the stuff with the judge.
Quite so, well. I didn't really want him to get confirmed, though. I didn't want him to get there.
Why not?
Judge not that he be not be judged, but we all do it. I just felt that he's guilty based on what has been alleged.
Full disclosure, when you say we all do it, you're speaking on your own behalf.
On my own behalf.
Okay.
But I say we all do it, meaning that we all pass judgments in our own way, not in this particular case, but in certain circumstances, we all pass judgments, even though we are not in a court of law.
So that's why you didn't want him to get confirmed?
No, I said the reason why I didn't want it, because I just believe that the allegations, in my view, had legs. And I'm convinced. Because I figured out whom this person is. Has a tremendous amount of firepower, intellectually and physically. And in that regard, the allegations. When you are at that level of intellectual power, you graduated first in this class, and you know once you are in that league, you not only eye them, but they eye you too. And sometimes, there's a thin line between rape and consent, a very, very thin line. And in that regard, I felt that he had and the goods were in there on him, but based on the numbers, he was given the nod to be in the highest court in the land, and maybe one of the best courts in the world. Of course, it has its faults, it has its shortcomings, and in that regard, we recognized that the numbers were there on his side simply because of how the political dynamics have been predicated. As a result, he is now sitting on the highest court. As I was listening to a clip today, I didn't see it, but Justice Thomas, they kept saying that he'd been applauding every time something was said. Because, you know, back about 30 years ago, I don't know if you had the opportunity to have viewed it, but that was also gripping when he was nominated to be on the Supreme Court with Anita Hill. And at this time, of course, it is stated that Judge Kavanaugh, in fact, has a lower rating than Judge Thomas based on what occurred. So apparently he might have been applauding to say, well, at least I slipped in on the net, but somebody came in with the net being lowered, much lower than I was. So he probably would say, I have somebody who's in my corner. And therefore, who knows what will transpire going forward. But again, I believe the allegations were true. And as a result, I didn't want him to get there. They should have picked another person. But it's based on politics and all the legal dynamics and ramifications, you know, he actually sailed through.
Ted, you were looking at it too?
I've looked at it, Webber. You know what? You couldn't help it. It's a gripping. It was a gripping set of situations that you had to look at. But Webber, what that, you know, I sit here for years and listen to Mr. Stanley. Great admiration for that great nation to the north, you know. He believes that the United States is the most wonderful country in the world. And what this discussion and the episode and the drama that has taken place over the last 2 weeks exposed the United States for what it is. They talk about, you know, the rule of law and fairness and all sorts of things. We know, Webber, that so many of our black people are in prison for crimes that they didn't commit. And you look at the way politics, in a sense, has dictated the rule of law in the United States. You have 9 justices, 5 of them now are rabid right-wing Republicans, and the other 4 are supposed to be supporters of the Democratic Party. And to get there, you have to show your colors one way or the other. And so when a matter comes before the Supreme Court, you can always be certain, especially where there's a tinge of politics there, you could always be certain how the decision are going to come down, 5-4. In the last regime, of course, you had Justice Kennedy, who occasionally give the 4 a little bit of a slack, as Mr. Stanley normally say, and vote with them. But generally speaking, Webber, it comes down the way of politics. And a lot of people in this country are not aware that in some of the southern states, to be a judge, you have to put up yourself for election. And you have to say all the things. You're either Republican or you're a Democrat, and you campaign for the job and how many people you're going to put in prison and how many people you are going to have mercy on and all that sort of thing. So it's not a question of putting the people with the best qualification and so forth. It's purely which political side you're on. And so what this drama that we have been witnessing, and you can't help but witness it, because the television was full of it. No matter what channel you tune into, you're going to get it. And I'm a big news addict, so I listen to MSNBC and I listen to CNN and the BBC and so forth. And you couldn't help but be pinned to this, what's going on. But I say it doesn't make the United States look as if this shining star that we all in the Caribbean grew up to believe that the United States was the greatest country on earth and so forth. We are beginning to see the United States because of television and because of the internet. We are beginning to see what the underbelly of that great country. And so I hope Mr. Stanley would not continue to tell us how wonderful that country is, because I am not a big fan, I must confess, because it has by its behavior and the way it operates send the wrong message to even our young people in the Caribbean, and they are exporting guns to our region and all of that, and they're sending people who have spent a lifetime up there and commit offenses back to these islands, which is creating havoc and so forth. So I am not a great fan of the United States, I must confess.
No, you got thoughts on it? You've been following it?
Well, you know, the news excerpts and you know, leading up to it, Webo, I never actually look at the swearing-in ceremony and so forth. But just to be in support of Mr. Hobson, as it relates to the America that we know. But even before the internet and so forth, we know, I mean, the fact that there was the civil rights movement, and we know the kind of racially bound situation that exists there. Really and truly, a lot of divisions go to America and just can't make it back. I hear Mr. Stanley say he would like to take everybody from here and put them there for a while and bring them back. I don't know what he hoped to achieve by that, but I for one believe that the movement of our people to America have done us not you know, have created a circumstance here in the Caribbean which is not the optimum situation which we hope to achieve. Our good minds, our intelligent people have left, and most of them don't come back. Nevis have so many people out in America who have reached, you know, the heights of education. They're doctor this and doctor that, but they cannot come back, or they don't want to come back. So I suppose when we count up, you know, the numbers, it's a negative, really. It's a negative to the Caribbean. Of course, you know, people go there in search of a better life, and they do achieve that. You know, America is known to be, you know, the place where anyone can make it. It is more so that way in America than England. I never see much black people rise up to any great position in England. I suppose the whole social class or whatever it is more rigid there. But America, yes, the land of the brave. I think, you know, from the very outset, you know, it's been established by Freemasons, and of course, whereas I don't feel any negative about that, a lot of people think the Freemasons are a group that really, you know, doesn't offer, you know, the everyday people their fair share and a good deal, really. But America is important to us. I don't like when they dictate to us. I don't like when, you know, our leaders wait for America to make a decision and then we contemplate and maybe we follow. I don't like when they come to the Caribbean in the name of security and destroy all the crops in the mountain and breed poverty on the Caribbean. A lot of Caribbean leaders have realized that cannot go on. Of course, we are feeling a little happy now because they say if you had a visa before, you don't have to go to Barbados. So that's a big achievement for us. And so I don't know where we're going. We need to see good and perfection in ourselves and our region. We see America today basically breaching all these trade arrangements and abandoning them. You know, it seems like they want to practice protectionism. What's up with the Caribbean? We can still buy an American cabbage in the Caribbean cheaper than the local cabbage. So I suppose it's being what it is to us. It's a good example to us, being a nation that cares for its people. And sometimes we even think a certain kind of people. And I suppose that's why racism exists in such a big way there. With the new administration, my good friend Donald, I suppose America might feel that they're chasing, that great might again. I suppose at the end of the day, I believe personally, America will rise up again, but I'm not sure the role that black people would play, or what we would be seen as on a social level. Really, we've seen a lot of things under Obama. A lot of people went to prison, police brutality. That will continue, I suppose. The skepticism about the president and how he is racist and how he don't like black people and so forth. That is left to be unfold. I don't really buy that, Webo. I don't really follow popular trend and things like that. I kind of have my own evaluation of him. But for sure, for the Americans, white America, who feels like America belongs to them, I believe that they're going to enjoy Trump very much. And so I think what we need to do is to look after our own business, look after our own people, make sure as much as possible that our intelligent people remain here and contribute to our country and region. And again, and I suppose we will be able to look America straight in its face.
Dr. Bartlett, you got any thoughts on it?
As it relates to the confirmation of the judge, I've not been following that kind of thing. For me, it is misogyny all over again. I've seen America elect a president who has no regard for women. I've seen them appoint judges who have no regard for women. That is not a country that I would like to be in. I went there because I had to go there to study, because at the time I didn't have much of an alternative. But I don't see the pull really to America, and Mr. Stan would like us all to go there. Well, you don't have to do that now with technology as it is. America is right in your living room every day. We can see the kind of lifestyle that they live. We can see the kind of things that they pursue. If indeed one would want to pursue individualism and would like to also pursue materialism, maybe that is a place for you. If you really want to focus on humanity, family, and things like that, America is not a shining beacon. Not for me. It has never been. And I think I would have made that observation sometime the last time that I spoke. I ever had the opportunity to speak here. I don't know. Everybody have what they like. Mr. Stanley has what he likes. I'm glad that he's not in a position to impose it on most, of the people in St. Kitts Nevis. And there's not much that I would really want to add to that, to be honest with you. The whole system in America, I find quite a bit of it I can do without, quite frankly. So I do not focus on that. In the meantime, I've been watching the situation as it relates to Petrotrin in Trinidad. And I'm waiting, to hear something locally as to, how is it going to impact us? What is our, plan of action as it relates to how we're going to, stay afloat? What alternatives we're looking at. Those kind of things have really kind of absorbed, or occupied my mind. I don't have time for Judge Covenant or whatever his name is, whether they appoint him or not. The only thing is that one must understand that even in America, when Mr. Hobbs would have made the observation that it is strictly political, indeed it is. But what one must understand is that there's a clear delineation between one who professes to be a Republican and the kind of ideology that they pursue as opposed to those who are Democrats. And that I think, we don't have here, and here we have our politics really is more, on a personal level, who we like and who we don't like. But I have nothing further really to add to that, as it relates to the misogynism that is going on in America. I just hope that we don't adopt it here.
Well, it is, I guess, all right for someone to see the glass half empty. And it is also all right for someone to see the glass half full. I describe my fellow panelists based on what they've said as seeing the glass half empty.
Well, you
And as a result,
attack other people because they have something different from you. Your view.
I
Why is it your
made
views?
my observation. You know how many people in St. Kitts and Nevis, having the opportunity to have the 8 children born here, but would have chosen for them to be born in the United States. That's a matter of choice, of course, but it's not only choosing, it is something that they see in a positive way, why they made such decisions. There are many people trying to get to the United States. Some risk their lives. Some have lost their lives in trying to get through to the United States. Are they blind? Are they foolish? No. In every part of the world, you've got good and you have not so good. In that regard, the United States has the good, they say, the bad and the ugly. And if you're smart enough, you'll go, you would seek for the good, and once you have already seen and acquired, then you make a determination as to whether or not it's a good country or a bad country. Now, we do our measurements all the time, and it is a barometer by which we measure in terms of human development, whether academically, socially, economically, politically, as the case might be. And I would tell you, wherever you go in the world, you'll find the same fractionation or sectionalization with reference to humanity, human race. People measure and they make a determination as to what is good from what is not so good. And I will tell you, those who have gone, and some have not returned, and will never return, simply because they know what we've had here, they know what they've left here. Some don't even know what we now have. But some people even say, to be dead is good, because it's so good over there that we don't have time to come back over here to tell those who are alive what's going on. Those who have gone to the United States, most of them, have done well. Some will never come back to Nevis, St. Kitts, or the Caribbean. Some, unfortunately, went and picked up the not so good, and they're forced back here, not by choice. And when they get back here, it becomes rather difficult for them to, in fact, exist in a humane way, But for my fellow panelists to have sat here and to have looked at the glass half empty, I would say again, applaud them to take a second look. Once you have education, once you have opportunities, and you are able to embrace those 2 factors, you cannot miss it in America. Here, there are opportunities in St. Kitts Nevis, but it's on a limited scale. But only a few who would be able to identify those opportunities, whether educational or academic. I mean, academic or economic. As a result, some will do well, as we have used the fractionation 80-20. In Nevis, in my view, anybody who's not lazy and anybody who feels that they've got what it takes academically and they apply themselves, they can make it. What make it means, it is really subjective. But there are people who can make a living without having to do what they're doing. If you're in the United States and you truly keep your eye on the ball, you could do very, very well. I leave it there.
Edric W. Stanley, Conrad Nyaliber, Dr. Patricia Bartlett, and Ted Hobson will be back after these.
When VOS and vibrate. The whole Caribbean must shake.
860 AM, the powerhouse.
Island Roofing and Hardware Limited, located next to the Monduk Track on Long Point Road, Nevis, specializes in the manufacture of 24-gauge pre-painted Galvalume roof sheets and the sale of tropical green hat lumber. They offer the traditional corrugated roof design for residential buildings along with the U-panel design for commercial buildings. Their roof sheets measure 42 inches in width and are manufactured on site and can be cut to whatever length you desire, thus eliminating the need for joining your roof sheets. Their aluminum-based roofing sheets, which are available at an affordable price of only $14 per foot, are of the highest quality. Their opening hours are Monday to Friday from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. daily. For more information, call 664-2441 or 664-2959. Island Roofing and Hardware Limited, meeting your complete roofing needs by providing quality products at affordable prices.
Back on this episode of Thought That Get Results with Conrad Niall Liburd, Edric W. Stanley, Dr. Patricia Bartlett, and Ted Hobson. Your phone calls on 1-869-469-1616 and 1700. I know, Edric, you said you got a couple of things you like to deal with, but before we move on to that, as I listened to the comments on the Judge Kavanaugh and also America as a whole and the political parties in America and the ideologies, I asked this question. Because when I look at world affairs, I try to see how they fit in our local situation and see what you can learn from it, really. Is there, which parties would you say are most similar to, that are here, to those in the United States? If you don't get it, what I mean is you've got the Democrats and the Republicans in the United States. You've got the CCM and the NRP in Nevis. And then we can go in St. Kitts and you can say, generally, you have Labour and you have PAM. So if you would like to, which parties would you say in Nevis are more like that in the United States and so on?
Let me just take a shot at it. I would say that in St. Kitts Nevis, the Labour Party was predicated on the Labour movement, the common man. And as a result, where there is a seat of power, which would be a labor union, fighting for the common man, the ordinary people, the working class people, then they would tend to be a little more liberal. And if you were to look at it from the other side, the opposing party, and we know what happened with Dr. Billy Herbert, who was never able to ascend to the high chair simply because it was believed that he was from the planter class. So, if I understand your question correctly, I have given you the PAM and the Labour Party. Nevis and St. Kitts, we're predicated on the British.
Okay, well,
quite conservatively.
I don't know if I'm not so sure you got it by the way you're answering. So let me be a little more direct. In America, you've got the Democrats and the Republicans. In Nevis, you've got the CCM and the NRP. Which party will you say NRP more resembles in terms of the way they operate, etc.? And which party would you say the CCM more resembles in terms of the way they operate, govern, etc.?
Well, in my view, they're both in 2P in the same pod, but the utterances would be a little different. And at the same time, they all would tell you, we're here to help the common man. Or when you look at the conservatism within both parties.
Okay, well, let me ask you this. If I were to, if Naya were to say that the NRP is more akin to, more resembles, let's say, the Republicans, and the CCM more resembles in terms of ideology and behavior and so on, the Democrats, would you agree?
I have already said my piece, and I put it in a phrase that they brought to the fore. Performance matters, but people matter more. And these were the two emphatic phrases used in the last election. The CCM said, people matter more.
So they're more akin to who in the United States? The Republicans or the Democrats? The Democrats. And then, therefore, it would follow that the NRP are more akin to the Republicans.
Well, we can...
Okay, now, how would you call it?
It's a difficult one, Webo. I probably would walk with Stanley with this one, based on those what they claim to be standing up for, or what they claim to be their interests.
So you'll go along with Stanley?
I think I'll walk with him.
Okay, just an observation. You've been agreeing with Stanley. Just an observation. I'm not making any conclusion. My role most of the time is just to present the evidence, right?
No, in terms of the parties on Nevis, yes, I'll work with it. I think that those on Sinkits as well.
Okay, so on Sinkits, you would say the Labour Party more akin to
the Democrats.
The Democrats, yeah. And
the PAM.
The PAM more to the
guys,
Republican. Ted, what do you say?
I suppose I'll go along with that. I think that the Democratic Party in the United States concentrate on trying to uplift the working class people and trying to relate to their wishes and so forth. The Republican Party is more concerned with wealth and they're not concerned with the welfare of the ordinary people. Mr. Stanley always talk in terms of, again, I'm sorry to bring Mr. Stanley into it, but I know that he was a lifelong Republican, right, Mr. Stanley? I don't know what he is now, but he used to be very much part of the Republican.
And just by way of observation to Ted, I noticed that he is not as willing now to admit.
To embrace that.
Yeah, it's just an observation.
No, yeah.
If standard bearer is not to my liking, I have the right, inalienable
way. Yeah. That's what.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
But let me just
make my statement.
Right. So
let me just say
that just before you.
Inalienable.
Said.
Right. To make my statement.
Okay. So I was correct in my observation.
Proceed, Webo.
Yeah. So I mean, the Republican Party is more concerned with wealth and how you amass wealth and so forth. The Democratic Party has worked over the years, because it wasn't always like that, but it has worked to more be concerned with people and their welfare and their unions and so forth. And so to a very large extent, it resembles the kind of philosophy that the CCM, and I was involved with the CCM almost from the beginning, and my ideology, because I am basically a democratic socialist. In fact, I was a member of Young Labour when I was in England, lived in England in the early days. And you know, in England there's a philosophy. You're interested in the working class, or you're interested in the conservative, who are more like the Republican, interested in money. So when I came back here, I identified with organizations like with the Labour Party. A lot of people always say Ted is a Labour, but I wasn't so much a Labour, but I was very much involved with the history of the Labour Party and the way they have developed and the concentration on the working class people. I mean, I'm not sure that is as it is now. And I think that all the parties in St. Kitts Nevis can't afford to be too much involved with high finance and with getting rich and so forth. Because the vast majority of the people are relatively, well, not poor, but not rich. So they all have to work with them, and so you wouldn't hear much difference between the NRP and CCM and Labour and Unity. They all seem to be talking about going after the working class people, helping with housing, helping with this, helping with that, to try and lift the ordinary people. Free education, all of that sort of stuff is part and parcel of the Labour Party in England's philosophy of sort of rising and trying to improve this quality of life for the working class people. And so, to a very large extent, all of the parties in the region now have to bow to that, and so there is not very much difference. But it is true that if you ask people the question that you ask, they will say that the NRP was more Republican and the CCM were more if for no other reason that their slogan was performance, which is the slogan of the Republican Party, you know, what the GDP is and all that sort of thing, how much wealth they have, whereas the CCM was more concerned with, you know, people first. And so I would say that. But going back to history, as I say, if you go to the United Kingdom, you will find that 90% of the black people and the West Indians are all supporters of the Labour Party. And if you go to the United States, you will find that 90% or more of the West Indians and people of color support the Democratic Party right now. You know, so it is clear that the the Democratic Party appeal to that kind of people. And if you're trying to get on in the United States, like you have a few black people who have identified with the Republican Party, and sooner or later, because they're so few, they're generally elevated. So if you want to be elevated like Thomas, like Justice Thomas, I mean, if he was a big supporter of the Democratic Party, he'd never ever have got even to be a judge, never mind to be on the Supreme Court. And I mean, that's one of, you know, Justice Thomas came here many years ago, and I went to visit him because at that time I was very much involved with the Four Seasons Resort. I was a lawyer, and you know, he was advised that, you know, they have their lawyer, the Four Seasons, and he wanted to meet me, and I met him. And I had conversation with him, and he said he came from a small island off Georgia and all that sort of thing. But his performance on the Supreme Court is deplorable. I mean, and he would never support anything for the upliftment of the black people. In
but
fact,
you didn't ask him about that, though.
No,
okay.
Well, that has developed since. I'm talking about the last 20 years when he came here. When he came here, he had just been elevated to. In fact, funnily enough, within a week of him being here and I met him, funnily enough, I met Anita Hill at the Four Seasons as well, a week after, which was strange. But what I'm saying is, Webo, that he has not, you know, I mean, in some cases for black people, he's the number one, 8 against 1, and as if he felt that the black people were against him when he was being thing, and he can punish them to the hilt. And I hope Justice Kavanaugh doesn't take that attitude as well.
Well, I'll tell you, he is a Yale graduate. Bush is a Yale graduate, and this is the thread that they're
You
sowing.
mean Kavanaugh? You mean Kavanaugh?
Kavanaugh also, but Thomas is also a Yale graduate.
Oh, yeah?
And Bush is a Yale graduate. And that's the thread that is pushed through the needle. You understand? But barring that, you go ahead with your
But he's
comment.
he's the far right on the Supreme Court, and so, you know, I mean, I don't think any black people have any respect for him. And he was supposed to be there to represent, you know, he was supposed to replace Thurgood Marshall, which was one of the giants on the Supreme Court, and help with the voters, what do you call it?
Civil rights and whatever.
Civil rights. He was there supporting them. This one gone the other way, deliberately. So I don't know.
Well, we all pick up our mantle in different ways. In the Virgin Islands, the Republican Party was smaller than the Democratic Party. And the people from the Eastern and Western Caribbean, in my view, should have seen it where it gives us a base, not the ideology in the true sense of the word. But I tell them, come aboard, and then vote out, and we got a party for ourselves to bring recognition to the people of the Eastern and Western Caribbean in the Virgin Islands. But they couldn't see it. But that was my tactical approach in terms of becoming a Republican. You understand? But
well, you see what I'm saying?
yeah. Well, he agreed with you, but he gave you his rationale.
Yeah.
Dr. Bartlett?
Well, I don't see any significant differences between the parties here, and I think that it might be a mixture of what is being practiced in the United States, but maybe skewed a little towards the democratic type of thing, you know, the ideology a little, the tax and spend kind of thing, and then have a little social program there for, you know, for some poor people who really can't make it in the atmosphere that we create around here. But I've seen a mixture of both, and I don't know that I can agree with anyone who would think that a slogan would really, you know, define what a party is. I think these parties, even though they might have, well, we all have history, I guess, and the legacy of the party may speak, you know, well of it, but what they're practicing now, I don't think it is very close to what they probably might have started off as doing. I don't see that the Labour Party necessarily is practicing more social programs to help the people as opposed to what the people now are practicing.
Quite right.
And I don't know that I don't see the upper class that is being helped necessarily by the policies that have been instituted by any of these parties. Quite frankly, everybody trying to target the people who are going to vote for them next time, which is the 80%.
Yeah.
So I don't necessarily see any of these parties falling really in footstep, and particularly to follow the ideology of the Republicans, who most of the times I get from them that they think that everybody is lazy. If you weren't born with the opportunity, then you're lazy. If you couldn't break through, then you're lazy. You know, and I hear that a lot from people who claim to be, you know, Republican, and you know, I don't know that I see that manifested around here quite a bit.
Okay, don't you see quite a number of lazy people around here? I am saying that wherever you go here in Nevis, opportunities are here, and the people who would come from other parts, whether Santo Domingo, that one, Guyana, that another, and they are making considerable inroads. Why? They're not lazy. And the thing is, being born here is a leg up, but some people don't really see it as a leg up or as an opportunity. You have a leg up ahead of the person who was not born here. And you should be able to, by the help of those who are able to show you and guide you. But many of our people are not listening. They are not only the young, but the older too. They are not listening. And because they're not listening, they are not hearing what they should do and must do in order to get up.
Listening to who, Stanley?
To teachers who would teach them the right thing in school, to preachers from a religious point of view who would teach them as to what they should do and what they should not do, and to other people who they should emulate in terms of those who are going upward and onward, and they've been talked to over and over and over and over by those three groups that I've just mentioned, and yet they still can't get that leg up simply because their attitude is not to listen. Hence, they cannot expand on their altitude. How?
But I don't know what percentage of these people you're making reference to, because anywhere you go, you would probably have people in that same category. The same people who come here, where they're coming from, you probably have people in the same category there. There are some people who are not motivated, and there's a distinction to be made between people who are not motivated and people may be lazy. There are policies that are in place that may not necessarily, you may think that you have a leg up, but you really don't. We have been told from us being small, okay, make sure, and there are a lot of instances that are going on. You maybe have your head in the sand. But there are a lot of people who've been told, you go to school, you do the right thing, you come out, you get a good job, but you have competition here too, you know. You have to recognize that you have CSME, which is a factor that, you know, I mean, there's so many, you know, issues here that people are not well equipped to deal with because we're not being educated in the right way. You know, so to sit back and to say, you know, that someone is not achieving just because they're lazy is not necessarily looking at everything in a holistic way. But that is, I guess that is your thing, you know, you think everybody is lazy except for you. But, you know, putting that aside though, we have to make sure that we prepare our people for competition, because competition is going to come. Competition is here. When we were growing up, we used to hear, you know, teach a man to fish, you know, and all the rest of it. But as it is now, we have gone out, we learn to fish, we come back, we can't get no bait. Other people are getting bigger bait than you. And even when you get a little piece of bait, the next thing you know, you have people with big trawler in the same water and you just small canoe. I mean, it is not fair what is going on here. And you may not be aware of some of the things that are happening. But if you and I were to have a one-on-one, I can point to you some things that have been happening, very disturbing things that are happening right here. You know, so don't tell me nothing about no country above self, and when people are trying, you know, their best to, because the atmosphere here is one of competition and individualism. That is what is being propelled, and that is what people have to fight against. You know, it's, you know, there are a lot of forces, and you're making it sound as if, well, you know, everything is also, you know, kosher around here. Everything is not kosher, and our people are not prepared for competition.
I just cannot accept what you're saying, Pat. There are people here who just ignore doing the right thing. They see people who have been motivated, then get yourself motivated. They see people who have become competitive, then get yourself competitive. And if you do those things, you can't miss it.
Mr. Stanley, right now they have a social program. The poor people in this country who think they were born here and have a right, been signing up for this thing that is this $500 to come. In the line with them are people who are signed up who were entitled to the $500 too because of policy. But our people are not even aware of that policy. You know, a lot of things are happening, like I said to you, and people are just not aware. You're in the water bobbing and weaving, but you don't know what's underwater. A lot is going on here.
That $500 thing should not have even come to the fore.
Well, whether
all
you
right,
think
what
it
I'm
should
saying,
or not, the point it is
what I'm
there.
saying to
I
those
just
people,
use that as an example of things that are happening. You want to make it sound as if being born here, for some reason, gives you an exclusive or gives you an advantage over those people who are coming. As it is now, it's a level playing field. We have hardly any buffer against any other person coming here. I've heard people here who are not educated enough to understand. Well, let me not use the word education because that seemed to connote something different. That's not what I meant. We're not well aware or conscious of what is going on as it relates to CSME and how you need to be able to, you know, navigate, you know. People are still making public statements as if they think they have some exclusive right on jobs here. We don't have that anymore, you know. The comfort zone has been removed, you know. It's not no, what was the slogan again? People matter more.
I still believe
people matter more is who people, which people.
I still believe that
I've seen people come here who may be able to do better where they're coming from, and they come here and they're not bringing anything new. You have Chinese coming, they're not bringing anything new. The same old game that we've been playing here. They're not enriching the society in any way. I've seen white people come here, and they're competing with us for the same jobs that we're doing here. As a matter of fact, one person would have 5 restaurants and, you know, a little person they're struggling, and they're doing other things. Nothing new. They're not bringing anything new to the table. But the people who are here, they're competing with the people who are here. Soon it's going to be a plantation system again all over here. You know, that is what we're up against. And our people need to be equipped. Our people need to be aware of what is going on. But we don't have those kind of conversations. We do not have them outside of the door, outside the closed door. You know, these are things that people who are conscious would sit and talk about. But other people who, when we used to play in school, Jack, what is this holding over your head? You know, things are being held over our heads and we don't even know what it is, and we are guessing, you know, and a lot of times we're not getting it right. So don't give me this thing about people being lazy. People sometimes get demotivated because of circumstances, and you have to be sensitive enough to recognize that.
You talk to several contractors, and they will tell you that they're not seeing the young men, even young women, but let's put it more so on the young men, coming to learn a trade. And that is the leg up. That gives you something solid to hold on to if you're not academically prepared to hold a better job, so to speak, or a white-collar job.
Yeah, but Mr. Stanley, but if you they tell you
in agriculture, there are so many uncultivated lands here in Nevis.
Who lands? Who own the land?
They're not owned by people from Mars. So all they need to do is to find out the land is there, it's being seen, find out who owns it, and make a determination as to how it could be utilized for you to make a living. I mean, I have stated on this program that my place up there is wafted off with cows because of the weather, just to ensure that this fellow gets a little help. But there are lands that need to be cultivated. You know how much for a pound of tomato?
Okay, Mr. Stanley, let me take this. Good evening. Thank you for holding. How much is for a pound?
$6 and $5 a pound.
You're on the air. Could you go ahead?
Yes, brother. Thank you very much. Let me turn down my radio right here. I want to speak with Mr. Stanley about, first of all, about agriculture. Let us forget about that. Agriculture can never feed a family in Nevis. I don't even know if it has ever fed a family in Nevis. I don't even know. I mean, Nevis, every 5 inches you take, you cut in the ground, you make stones. So Nevis, that can't work. Let us not put our people back there again in the ground there. My father tried it and he had to go say, "Quite help me out," and I thank him. I don't think anybody should try that again.
I wonder if, whoever, caller?
Yeah.
Right below the machinery shop, the machine shop at Prospect.
Yeah.
There is a young fellow, and I thought he was a Guyanese. Only to find out the fellow went to UE, studied agriculture, and if you see the amount of stones he got out of that little piece of land right below the machine shop in Prospect.
He can make a living out of it.
He's been making a living.
What kind of living?
But
bread and cheese?
The fellow, the place was wafted off with melon, and now he's preparing it again, and this is not his first crop, this might be his 7th crop. And every time you look, stones. I'm just giving you one example. Another fellow accosted me a couple of weeks ago, and he wanted to buy a house that was $1 million, and you know what he does? Agriculture.
Oh.
$1 million?
Exactly.
Miracles happen.
That miracle.
He said he wanted to buy, he never said he bought it.
The people who were the selling, the owners decided that
the people who have been in agriculture, who have sent children to school and send them to university and get them onto anything. You cannot show me that in Nevis. So I
am trying to show you how people are using our land. They have come from elsewhere, and they're making money hand over fist from agriculture. Well, maybe you're not watering them properly. Maybe you don't know how to do it. But I'm saying to you,
can't feed a family. Let me make another point about what
I just gave you 2 examples.
Yeah, let him continue.
Dr. Bartlett was saying, and he's right. There's now no both right. you cannot bring now you bought paper and claim any right. At least that in Nevis. I don't know if you can do that anywhere in the world. Because right now I think we are surrounded a little bit by saying that everybody, I mean, it is like the Trinidad song, I mean, national anthem, here every creed and race find an equal place. So right now I believe, as she says, that we have to prepare ourselves for the job you have today, and you say you had that. I still say you had that. You alone, nobody who has a monopoly on any job, so that job can go from you. I don't even know if the civil service that we when we go was safe. That is no longer safe, because I mean I think that people have to understand that, as you say, in this whirlpool here, every man is for himself, and I'm sure God looks for all. But I think that we have to understand that. And I want to make another point by you saying people going to America to better themselves. Let us be frank. It's about 10% of the people who left Nevis gone to America is any better off than if they were here. I mean, let us be frank. A lot of people think that people leave here, went to America, and it's an El Dorado out there. And when you reach up there, I sit out to goal. I mean, I have been to America, seen my people, net 10, 15 times in New York. I've been down to where people live and everything. I mean, a man is looking at a buck. I look at a dollar. And in every country, whether if you work hard or work well, you can make it in Afghanistan, make it in Australia, New Zealand, all in Brazil, if you work hard. And our people have done well, have worked hard, and 10% of them have succeeded in America. Not another piece more. All right?
When you work hard, what is the opposite of working hard?
But what I'm saying, if you work hard and you're in Brazil, you make it.
What is the opposite of working hard?
No, opposite. Because I don't want to say that people who, but you see the impression, and I think Dr. Bartlett, before this, that if you go to America, somehow you and so it'll drop up there. El Dorado of the gold, but just come.
It's there.
Huh?
It's there.
But gold here too.
But what I'm saying to you that Dr. Bartlett is poo-pooing the idea that people are not lazy, and I'm saying to you, people are lazy. And you are coming up with the same hogwash by saying people...
You call everybody who succeeds, call the people who don't succeed lazy. But it's about the three of us left from Gingerland. You had a donkey, and I was walking, and the next one was on a bike. How are we chance of us? I mean, it's not about people lazy, it's that people they can't get out of the block. And it's not about saying people, I mean, I think people are outside. But it is, I mean, in the end, though, maybe humanity itself. Only 10% of the people in the world, you know.
Well, those are the people who, in fact, are not lazy. Those are the people, in fact, who got foresight.
Just come off it.
And I'm saying to you, if you understand it.
Anyone who knows me, I work harder than any the average person, and I am not rich. And I probably would never be rich.
Well, that is subjective.
Nobody works harder.
Rich is subjective, so don't come with that.
Nobody works harder than a cane cutter. And he will never be rich. Because my father of the memory told me that you can never work hard and rich. Never. You gotta work smart.
You gotta work what? Smart.
Work smart.
Well, yeah, but if you work smart, it doesn't mean that you must work dishonestly. The smart, it doesn't mean dishonesty. But what I'm trying to say, you have to begin to feed positive.
Okay, let's see if we can sift through it. So, caller, your point is that you can work hard, yes, but you must also work smart.
You have to work smart because you have to see when the change on you.
Okay. So that is not just work.
When the night change today and it change tonight, and you have to be always super moving forward.
Okay.
But
all right.
Just so you work hard, I mean, who work harder than our fathers? Come on, I see my father work here all day and night, and I see all my people that work hard.
But they weren't working smart.
They might not be working smart because they might be working 40 years or 45 years of the hospital as a cleaner. How young get so that one get rich.
Okay. All right.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Thank you very much. Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Hey, right. What you right? You say, when you work hard and don't work hard. The preacher man say, he never chop a stroke for nobody. And he got emotional in the Nevis. He passed away. And I call it him. Don't know who he is.
Enjoy your evening.
All right.
This is Thought That Get Results with Edric W. Stanley, Conrad Nye Liebert, Dr. Patricia Bartlett, and Ted Hobson. Your phone calls on 1-869-469-1616 and or 1700. We'll be back after these.
Looking for a place you can go to and relax and enjoy a healthy meal? Check out Island Life Vegetarian Food and Juice Bar located at Penny's Industrial Site below the supply office. They are open Monday to Friday from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. They offer you healthy, delicious, nutritious food on a menu that boasts Ital food, sandwiches, burgers, roti, puddings, and much more. They have a wide variety of freshly squeezed fruit and vegetable juices and smoothies that includes beet, carrot, pumpkin, tamarind, star apple, and sarsaparilla, and much more. Contact them today at 660-5318 or 668-3107.
With all the power from the tower, this is the powerhouse of the Eastern Caribbean, VON Radio, from the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis.
Back in this episode of Thought That Get Results with Edric W. Stanley, Dr. Patricia Bartlett, Ted Hobson, and Conrad Nye Liebert. Your phone calls on 1-869-469-1616 and or 1700.
Well, I would like Dr. Bartlett and the caller to put a little time in and ask, go on a construction site and ask some of the contractors to get a feel as to how our young men are responding to the call for learning a trade. And they would hear what I have heard.
Yeah, but Stanley, I think
that's one.
The approach is different these days, you know. I mean, these days people don't simply just go and work with a mason and say you're learning to become a mason. Sometimes people go to technical college, give themselves a good insight. You know, it's a different approach maybe from your time.
Don't misunderstand me. In my time we weren't paid. In my time we weren't paid.
Well, you're not going to find that these days.
And you're being paid a reasonable amount as a
it's a different
as an
approach.
apprentice.
And I'm not sure you're promulgating this issue like if you're not rich, if you're not successful, you're lazy. And I'm not sure you're really sending the right message. This the ideology of people talking about richness. Sometimes that adds to the crave of some people, and they want to match you.
That's subjective.
You know? But what I'm trying to say, people are not always thinking the way you think, Stanley. People, we are the world, you know, and they're going to be people of all sorts. Whereas you might see your success in having a big bank account. Another man might see him success in traveling to remote places and having a different experience. People sometimes, and in these days, you find
having
people...
a family.
How having a family.
You're defining my thing as saying subjective. That's what that's what I mean.
Well, you probably put too much emphasis on if it's subjective, because what are you talking about? Do you know if I'm rich or not? No, you don't know.
So what I'm trying to tell you now...
I don't know how you would evaluate me as an individual, you know. But today you find people of different interests, you know. It's not all about the material. It's not all about the big bank account. There's sometimes people just want to do sufficient to get along and to be simple in life, you know, with a simple approach. Maybe eat from the land and subsidize it from elsewhere. I find sometimes you promulgate a lifestyle which sometimes you feel like everybody must follow the same path you have taken. You know, people want to go and buy a good pizza, not just a slice of a pizza if they have the money to do that, simply because, you know, you might want to save 10 cents out of every dollar. People might say, that's hogwash, you know. I mean, I'm going to live my life and enjoy my life at the end of the day.
But then you become a borrower. You become a borrower. You become dependent on society and the institutions that have been built for people that being supported by the taxpayers. What I'm saying to you,
well, we all are.
To be rich is subjective. A man could have a donkey. He could have 2,000 feet of land, which he plants food for his own survival, but he doesn't bother anybody to borrow from them or to lean on them, and he could be categorized as a person who has made it.
But let me ask
so
this. If I'm understanding the discussion or debate, then so what is the fuss all about? Because if the one group of people that Naya is referring to is satisfied, right? What is the argument about? And the group that you are referring to is also satisfied, then what is the argument all about? Because Naya seems to be saying that this group of people who I'm referring to are quite satisfied with just a buggy cat or whatever the case may be, and they're content. The Bible, let's use that word. They're content. Important. Yes. Am I correct, Naya?
Yes.
Yes. And so you're saying now that the group of people that you're speaking about, they do what you call work hard, and they get thousands of dollars and so on and so forth, and they're satisfied, right? So what is the argument all about? Because both units are satisfied, are content.
But then we still have a problem, because we are bombarded by people who want to steal.
That's right. I was about to,
and want to take what you got.
I was about to say.
I made mention that the
okay,
word subjective.
Just let Ted go ahead, and then you.
I was just going to
but
say,
just work with me, Mr. Stanley. Let Ted go ahead.
Yeah, I was thinking that fair enough, you have those of Mr. Stanley's ilk that is well off and quite satisfied, and those of Naya's ilk that is quite content with a buggy cart, as you put it, and a little juice and a little bread and cheese and so forth.
But they're satisfied.
And they're satisfied. But where the criminals come from? Which group the criminals come from?
Okay, just pause. Just let me take this. Good evening. Good evening. Thank you for... just let me take this. Thank you for holding. Go ahead.
Yeah. Stanley. Okay, right?
Well, this might be a light moment, but this sounds like he came from the group that his money is finished. Okay, but Ted, finish up.
Yeah, I was just thinking. I'm just listening to the two scenarios. Mr. Stanley's people who have done well and who has accumulated wealth and quite happy.
Not necessarily.
Well, I mean, he says they're quite happy. And then you have Naya's group that are quite content and quite happy. So I want to know of that two groups, because there's only two groups you're talking about here in the society.
Yes.
Where are the antisocial and the criminals are coming from? Which of the two groups?
Okay, so that's a very good question. So Stanley, what's the answer?
Those are the ones who are lazy. Those are the ones who want to be parasite on the other two groups.
But if I remember the discussion well,
we weren't talking about laziness.
Yeah, we were, but Naya challenged you and told you that those people are not necessarily lazy.
That's right.
They are the people who are content and satisfied with so and so. Am I not correct?
Yes, but I did say subjective, and I went on to clarify what I meant in terms of being subjective, because a person could be wealthy, doesn't have to have money in the bank to be wealthy. It's a state of mind. But he is content, and he doesn't lean on anybody. He doesn't bother anybody, and nobody can accuse him of taking from them, and therefore that person would have arrived.
Yeah, but consider, I'm going to take a call, but consider the question that Ted asked, though, and let's address it when we come back. Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Yes, good evening to you, Webo, and your panel. You know, Stanley have his right point, and probably Naya might have his point. But the problem that we have in our federation here is that some like to work and some does not like to work. We've seen that throughout Think It and music. So it is not no maybe, it's not guess so, it is so. Because you got some people who sit and do all they want to work and they want to rob you in the night because they see you work hard. So this is something that we got to get rid of in the federation. I thought, was Think It and music that was born and raised and lived. This is something that each and every one of us, sometimes when I tell you go in, you got to look back so many times before you put in your door. Who come in behind you?
Quite so.
Who hold you up. And these are the problems that we have. Until people learn to work for what they want and leave people that work hard, let them enjoy what they work for. God bless you guys. Have a good night.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Stanley, you want to address Ted's question?
I mentioned it before Ted answered. I said those people who want to rob, steal, and lean on charitable institutions, those are the people who I call lazy.
But the question again that Ted asked is this. We have two groups, right? One that is content, which Naya described, by just getting along with, little. The other which is content by getting along with much. Nothing is wrong with either scenario.
Not at all.
Okay. But Ted says there is a leakage someplace, right? So he wants to know, where is the leakage coming from? Is it your group or Naya's group, or both?
Both.
Well, we have to bring a third group. This is the group that Pat doesn't want to accept, and the caller doesn't want to accept the other caller who mentioned that.
So the third group might be Pat's group.
No, this is not Pat's group.
But when I say
the
Pat's
group that is lazy.
No, when I say Pat's group, I don't mean
I hear
that
you.
she is in the
Yeah,
group.
I hear you loud and clear.
I was just, I meant, we labeled one Naya's group because he and one your group. So that's all I meant.
Yes. So I'm saying to you, that third group is the group that I am talking about, and that group would cause all of us to complain, because here we've got a society. It could be a very, very good society where we all are content, but one group just decides to be a parasite on the other two. And if we are able to identify them, get them to listen, and get them to understand and be motivated for them to be contributors, meaningful contributors in this society in which all of us live.
But you're also aware that your members of your group can be parasite to that third group. You're aware of that, and most time people from your group get there by exploiting people from the third group.
Look,
yes.
You are saying this, and this obviously, this does happen. It does happen. It does happen. And if I were to tell you it doesn't happen, I would be fooling myself. But what I'm saying to you is that a caller mentioned that you got to be smart. You got to work smart. Maybe that's where you might be talking about the exploitation. The objective is to make an honest living. Because if you do not make an honest living, somebody's going to come and get you. Somebody's going to come and get you. Because if you are out there exploiting people, don't think you're going to get away with it. And we've seen it.
But you're implying, Mr. Stanley, aren't you, that if you work honestly, and we conclude that you do that, and you do well, nobody will come and get you.
No.
Or get what you have.
No, when I said that, what I mean...
Well, let me ask you this, that if you answer so emphatically, no.
I know you're going, but go ahead. No, bring it on, Webber. Bring it on.
You are so influential, right? You're so influential in this society that you have a chorus of people off here when I speak who intervenes and tell me they know where I'm going and they know what I'm about to say.
Well, go ahead. Do your job.
And I do exactly that. I would say, well, okay, then since you know, let's leave it there.
No, but it is good for our listeners to
Oh,
hear.
okay, so I got you. So you know, but the listeners don't know yet. So I should still say it.
Well, let us have the discussion. Let us have the conversation. Because
Okay, well, let me ask the question again then. So are you implying or suggesting that were you to work hard and work honestly, they will not come and get you?
Well, the society in which we live doesn't really apply to what you just said, because we know.
What I'm asking is, based on the statement that you're
I
making,
hear you. But sometimes
is it reasonable to conclude that that is what
Not
you're
in every
suggesting
case.
or implying?
Not in every case, because the haves are seen to have, and those who seemingly don't want to work have already seen the haves, and they will attempt to take from the haves. This young fellow who got shot the other night, he worked hard. He always got his little thing
That's true.
by Value Mart.
Dreadful. Dreadful.
And they just felt that he had money in him.
Dreadful.
But you see,
In that
you know why
regard-
I don't entertain those discussions?
Well, here,
Because the point is
well,
that
the facts
if,
are not, all the facts are here.
if that is the reason why he got injured or whatever, right? Then that's a case that we should have already solved,
Well, all right.
right?
But let me bring my case to the fore.
Yes, bring your case, yes, because you got the facts on that. So go ahead.
It was 10 after 1 in the morning when I left my place, and as I got out, shots rang out. Simply because the fella had money on me. I was there doing a report for one of the banks, and to be honest, God already told me what to do. But when they pounced on me, they didn't get a red cent. Those are the lazy ones who will continue to be parasites on those of us who are out there working hard.
So in essence, then you're saying, in terms of Mr. Hobson's question, which I thought was very important in terms of the discussion, you're basically suggesting to Mr. Hobson they're not really two groups, but they're three.
Quite so.
Okay.
And we all are aware of it. And this is what we are trying to, we come here all the time and we keep talking
And the
about.
third group is the group that you said earlier that Dr. Bartlett keeps referring to.
And doesn't want to believe it. Because a caller called and said, yes, there are people out there who are lazy and they just going into his house at night, or our houses, as he said, we got to look to see if anybody's behind us.
No, but that's a different discussion, though.
No, that's not a different.
This is
These are the people who are lazy who could be part of either group. Just to work hard, earn, and be content whether you wind up with.
Rebel, we do have a criminal element here.
All right?
I am not trying to suggest that we don't. Whether it is that they're lazy, whether it is that they're not motivated, I don't know what the issue is as it relates to
You
the
know, Pat,
criminal-
you know what
as
the
it
issue
relates-
is.
As it relates to the criminal element here, I cannot define the criminal element. I don't know who these people are. I don't know if these are some of the same people who you made reference to earlier, who you said are shipped back here from America. I do not know who these people are. Pick them up, prosecute them, and then I know who they are. I don't know who they are. All I'm saying is we started with one discussion, and it seemed to me at some point that Mr. Stanley might have lost his way. But maybe it's not that he lost his way, but he's just expanding. But if you're going to define all lazy people as criminals, then I'll have to accept that. But initially, the arguments just started off about people who were not achieving because you were suggesting that people are coming from elsewhere and doing the jobs that we could very well do. You think that because a guy doesn't want to be a contractor, doesn't want to be a mason, that he has no ambition. Maybe he doesn't want to be that. Maybe he wants to be a singer. Maybe he wants to be a dancer. Maybe he wants to do something else. What I'm saying is there are people who are not going to fit in the stereotypical format that you set out. And we have to be cognizant of that. And in this society, we have to make sure that we make the necessary programs available to people to explore different avenues. And I think Naya would have spoke a little more eloquently about it than I even can, you know. But you can't think that you put everybody in the same pigeonhole. Every child coming out of school is not going to have an interest in being neither a carpenter nor a mason. Like I said, we're going to have to make sure that we provide the opportunities for people to branch out in doing other things, and maybe we may have less people who seem to be lazy, as you put it.
Well, let me
You're
ask
not
you
living
this.
in Mars,
Let me ask you
Pat.
this, Dr. Bartlett. Then, well, how about if we have a group of people who find that the society has offerings which does not include what they want? Can they adjust?
If you're trained to do so, maybe, yes.
Right, can they adjust and try to, as the old people used to say, make do until you get to where, rather than exhibit and fall into
the antisocial thing.
Yes.
But you see, that's just it. Sometimes kids have different problems that they just do not get the support. You know, one guy was telling me, you know, I had this story from this chap who was telling me about a son of his who had lost his way, and he's not like he hadn't tried to help him, but apparently the child had special learning abilities, you know, at early o'clock, but no one was able to identify and help the child. And so obviously he seemed to be just, as you know, most people who are not trained would think, oh, he's just rebellious, you know, but that was not it. He had learning disabilities that just was not being addressed by the conventional way how we teach kids here, and he just could not, you know, conform. And he lost him, you know, to gangs, you know, and those are the kind of things that happen sometimes. Sometimes you have to fine-tune, you know, how you approach the teaching of kids. You know, kids sometimes need some special, you know, teachings and, you know, different avenues to pursue. And that is what I think is lacking in our education system. Not that I'm attacking the education system, mind you. I'm just saying that we have to find other ways, you know, alternative ways of making sure that we deal with these elements that, you know, are breaking through. And not assume that everybody is lazy.
Before the program of deporting people from the United States who were involved in certain things, people were stealing and killing people here. So don't bring that impact. And you're sensible enough to understand this.
Mr. Stanley.
Two, there are people who are not criminals, but they are dependent on handout, on charitable institutions. And there are some people who go out and steal, they go out and rob. Well, that's another category. So those who are not dependent on themselves, let us attempt to help them, find ways, get them from being lazy, get them to be productive, find something to do.
You see,
parents always tell their children, find something to do. And what you're telling me now is that these people who are categorized as lazy can't be changed.
Edric W. Stanley, Conrad Nye Leiber, Dr. Patricia Bartlett, Ted Hobson. Your phone calls on 1-869-469-1616 and 01700. We'll be back after these.
Get your generators now and be prepared for the upcoming hurricane season at Builders Paradise for only $2,250. Yes, you heard that right. $2,250. Located at C.A. Paul Southwell Industrial Park, Basse-Terre, St. Kitts. Builders Paradise is there to help you to be prepared. Builders Paradise, where your island dreams begin.
When VON vibrates, the whole Caribbean must shake.
860 AM, the Powerhouse.
Back in this edition of Thought That Get Results, our remaining minutes with Conrad Nye Leiber, Dr. Patricia Bartlett, Ted Hobson, and Edric W. Stanley.
Can I just share something with Stanley, because I don't think he's well aware of what is going on in this society at all. Stanley, you're far removed from what is going on. Look, right now we have an issue, and I don't know, you know, even as it relates to the gang. Let me just touch that. Not that I want to get them upset or anything, but sometimes these guys get into the thing, and you hear somebody would say, "Well, he gone away." No, if someone leaves from here as a gang member, he's not going someplace else in the regular way, and he gets there. He has no support system there. What is he likely to do to survive? Huh? Likewise, don't you think we have an infiltration of the same kind of people coming this way? Just like how we are exporting people who are looking refuge someplace else. Don't you think we're having those elements here too? So do you think it is because everybody is lazy why they're robbing? No. You just don't understand the dynamics in the society. And until you get a grasp of that, then an appreciation of that, then you wouldn't, you would continue to say, in your naive way.
You're letting them off the hook.
You would continue to say.
You're letting them off the hook.
You don't know what's going on in the underworld.
I know what's going on.
You don't know. You have a clue. You don't have a clue.
I know what's going on. People who...
Not everybody who is robbing is lazy. Some people just not...
Well, if you don't try to find gainful employment, and you find something that is nefarious to sustain yourself, okay, so therefore, what they do is their job, and therefore they're not lazy. If you want to categorize it that way, maybe that's how you want to categorize it. But what I'm saying, we want a good society. And because we want a good society, those who find ways of getting a livelihood in a nefarious way, I say that they're lazy. But if you want to say, well, that is their job.
I never said that.
No. Well, I'm just trying to lead you down that path to say maybe they're not lazy because this is their job, and therefore they're out there working just like you're working, doing what you're doing to make a living and sustain yourself. Therefore, they're out there working too. And their work is to be a robber, a thief, as the case might be. And therefore, they're not lazy. That I could understand if you... But I said it for you. But if they don't find gainful employment to sustain themselves and to bring themselves as productive citizens in our society, I say flatly, categorically, emphatically that they are lazy.
Well, let me just...
I know people with issues. I know people who got all kind of psychological issues. As I mentioned last Tuesday night, that we need to have a behavioral institute, and that will be able to identify those people that we've just brought to the fore. And we know people who got psychological problems, emotional problems, those two, and as a result, this institute, being manned with the right personnel, would be able to identify those people, and we'll be able to help them. So don't tell me that I am living someplace else and do not know what's going on in this society. I know.
Well, I guess you didn't hear I think there was a bulletin that was put out. Everybody was on the news tonight about some chap in Antigua who they're looking for, who would have shot his family members, and he's on the
run.
And he might just be in a different island. If he were to hit on the shores of Nevis, what do you think he's going to do? Apply to Stanley for a job? How do you think he's going to survive? Show up by Mr. Hobson asked if he could cut grass?
Well, when you see a group of people at the top of Government Road there, a group of guys, young guys, it's quite easy to say there's a bunch of lazy guys. So if you see them down in Bart Village or even Lush Street or Craddock Road. But these are the places I go when I'm looking at worker, and they all want work. They all, I mean, I would just go and say, look, I might have something happening, I'm going to take you guys' numbers, 2 numbers. I took their numbers. And if circumstance change, I mean, everywhere they meet me, Naya, you take my number and you ain't calling me. You take my number and these are the places I go when I want somebody to work with me. They are not officially a part of my team, but I might have something happening, for a week or 2 or a few days. And I cannot evaluate these individuals who come and work with me as lazy. I mean, they want to continue, but I can't afford it because, the little surge is over as soon as it starts.
The surge. I like that word.
The surge, yeah. But I can tell you, I mean, I sometimes, just the other night, I had to tell one of them, just take it easy, man. You're just pushing it too much. Yeah, I took your number, but when the right time comes, I'm going to call you. You know, because he's
We
on.
should-
Now you take my number,
we
you're
should-
not
we should have
calling.
sent him by
And it's
Stanley.
quite easily to call these people
We could have
lazy.
sent them by Stanley.
You know, but I mean, who everyday contractor gonna look amongst that group and ask the question? A lot of people in that group, they feel to themselves, if they go to Stanley or even to a regular contractor, for some reason, they won't be taken serious or they won't be given the job.
But do they go?
Some go.
And what?
They're still sitting down because they've been refused the job.
Not
So-
only that, though,
y-
Naya,
y-
some of them, can't move into other territories. I mean, you can't.
Some of them can't move into territory.
Right, there's
some of them are
safe
very
zone for
much
some
untrained. Well, but we know in big countries when you have lost your job for some reason, you can collect unemployment benefit. Well, a part of that program is retraining.
Yeah. Well,
you know, and that is what lacking here. A lot of those guys, they probably was on a construction site and the job is over. What is available now maybe be something else, and they lack the basics.
Yeah, but I don't. Dr. Bartlett, repeat your point again because I think Naya missed it.
No, I was just saying that some guys can't go into some other, jurisdictions to work.
I've met them.
Well, I mean,
I've met them. They can't come castle with me go
Right.
work. You know, the other
That
day I was
limits
in a
his
job
scope.
in the Cotton Ground area, and a guy asked me, "Oh, the
Yeah.
guy." Well, I wouldn't say no more on that, but yes, they cannot. fix a lot of them.
Dr. Bartlett is correct, and Naya, I mean, I was talking to a lady, and two of her nephews are just there for years, they can't work. And so they say they can get work, but they can't leave the area. I mean, what kind of...
And it's not
It's
everybody.
a small island, you can't leave a village.
And I must say this, it's not everybody who's in the
My
this,
God.
is this gang thing is afraid to leave, you know. People who are not in this gang thing, I know a guy who carried tourists up to the mountains.
Yeah.
And he lives in the Newcastle area over there. And he say he usually use the trail in Zetland. But no more, I mean, he ain't going up there. And he's not into gang. I mean, this is an official guy who works hard, have a company.
But he's from the area.
He's from Newcastle area.
So.
And he usually used the trail up at Zetland.
Yeah.
You know?
You
But
see-
he now can't go up there because he looks like rallying people have some beef with Castle people.
Oh my
You
God.
get me? And it's a decent
no,
guy.
you see, one of the things.
Well, that's
you
fear.
see, no, one of the things that happens a lot is this: that we have a lot of systems in place, just like any other developed countries, officers and all these kind of things. But the duties that are assigned to these officers and etc. and who are paid are left to sometimes people like you to deal with. They're not dealt with. So all of a sudden we have a discussion, and then if we didn't go in depth, a lot of things would not have come out. And then we want to apply certain prescriptions to the problem, and it wouldn't work because we did not really expose what the real problem is. Right? But I want to end the comment by saying that we do have the systems in place and the personnel in place. So when we try to address it by saying we need to have this, we do. But I won't use Mr. Stanley's term.
Use it, Weber.
I won't.
Hogwash.
I won't. The people who are in the system, who are paid for it, the question is, do they do an honest day's work for honest day's pay? Because we have, to be fair to the authorities, they do put the people in place. The systems are in place. But this thing called work is a thing that a lot of people don't want to do, especially when it's not very, but when you really have to use your brain or be challenging or and so on and so forth. That is really holy
Well,
spirit.
especially also when you're protected by the politicians, because you see, Politicians give a lot of people.
So what do you label it as, Webo?
Protected by the politicians. They give a lot of people work based on something as other than commitment to the task ahead. And people just sit around, really. People just sit around.
Well, a lot of people are given work for the same reason you were talking about. Huh? They're there on the wall and they just employ them. They're not going to do any work. That's a fact. I know that.
Right. So you see, so that's what happens when. So all of a sudden now.
So if they don't work, what you call it? What you call it?
See, so that is what basically we're faced with.
See how it's skirting around it.
Yes,
it's really a serious problem we have.
Yes, and we know. And we know.
Yes.
And we know.
So if the fellow cannot go into Castle to work,
but
he has to figure it out.
No, but I don't even.
In Barnesgard.
Yeah, but I don't even want to harp so much on that because it is just segmenting off.
Unfortunately,
certain section of the people, and the problem is much larger than that.
It's larger than
yes, much wider than that, right? Yes. And so not these people, because nobody is there to fight for them. When Ted made the comment, Ted was not only speaking about those small group of people. He said it's a problem we have in the place.
The whole place.
It's a problem we have in the place.
Created by us.
Right? Today, I had a discussion with someone, and we were trying to find out where are the people who get the most scholarships and, totally funded by taxpayers and everything and so on and so forth. And what is the measure of their contribution? Because sometimes you have a group which gets that, maybe 20%, and then out of the 80% is who put their shoulders to the wheel and build a nation.
Always, yeah.
Always.
But right now there's a fellow who doesn't speak to me simply because there was a gathering and I made mention the same thing you mentioned a while ago, Webo. If these people get scholarships, and I said, well, let's give the ordinary fellow a leg up by giving him a little piece of land, a little house, and show him how to do farming and become productive. And boy, that fellow tore through me simply because I saw things on the one hand where the academically prepared get scholarships, go on to institutions of higher learning, but the ordinary fellow who needs a little leg up, as I said, he didn't agree with it at all. Anyway, I leave it at that. But I do understand all the dynamics and all the problems we're having.
So
yesterday, a lady came by my house.
What did he say was wrong with that policy that you suggest? I don't see that. This is a good policy.
It's a good policy.
Give the ordinary fellow a leg up.
Yeah, but he just felt maybe I was pushing for the poor. You understand? And some people here would not.
So maybe he was surprised then.
He must have been
being maybe a person of your
kind of a
group. Yes.
No, I'm a pragmatist. Well, I'm a pragmatist, and I see things in a practical way.
Okay.
And when I see a problem, I can tell you how we can solve the problem.
So notwithstanding, you're in a certain group, you also look out for it.
Look,
and so he was kind of surprised. I got you.
I was surprised when he said it too.
Yes.
Look, that group, that group, we all came from that group, We all came from that group. It's just because we weren't lazy. Again, the buzzword for the night. We're not lazy. And those of us who see things as to where we want to go and how to get there, we apply ourselves.
I realize you're correct. It's the buzzword for the night. But I don't think, that's why I shy away from it. Because Mikey, you have the authority to make it the buzzword. But I got to take a break. This is Thought That Get Results. We'll be back with our remaining minutes after these.
Sugar City St. Kitts. Keep it sweet. Keep listening to Vaughn.
Island Roofing and Hardware Limited, located next to the Monduk Track on Long Point Road, Nevis, specializes in the manufacture of 24-gauge pre-painted Galvalume roof sheets and the sale of tropical green hat lumber. They offer the traditional corrugated roof design for residential buildings along with the U-panel design for commercial buildings. Their roof sheets measure 42 inches in width and are manufactured on site and can be cut to whatever length you desire, thus eliminating the need for joining your roof sheets. Their aluminum-based roofing sheets, which are available at an affordable price of only $14 per foot, are of the highest quality. Their opening hours are Monday to Friday from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. daily. For more information, call 664-2441 or 664-2959. Island Roofing and Hardware Limited, meeting your complete roofing needs by providing quality products at affordable prices.
Back with our remaining minutes on Thought That Get Results, with Edric W. Stanley, Conrad Nye-Liber, Dr. Patricia Bartlett, and Ted Hobson.
Yeah, Rebo, I just wanted to share an experience. I traveled over the last weekend, and I just wanted to say that I had, for a long time, I have not had a good experience in traveling with Liat, and I have had a very exceptionally good travel experience this time around on Liat. And then I was wondering why. I thought maybe it was because the Antigua airport was so nice. No, I was like, no, that's not it. Then when I was coming back, I picked up on the magazines. They had a magazine on this thing, you know, on the plane. You can take one of the magazines. I brought one for you, Rebel, as they call it, a Zing magazine. And when I looked at, and there was a message in there from the CEO. And guess what? The CEO is a woman. So things have changed, you know. Apparently things have changed around, you know. So Liat is now running very efficiently. And I'm thinking that, you know, people are going to start catching on now. They have a CEO who's a woman.
Wow. Wow.
Just thought I should share that.
Well, she's competitive. She's competitive, obviously.
Well, you know, I
she's
mean,
competitive.
I've heard that situations have improved enormously.
Yes.
So I'm glad. And my concern is that these other territories, these other states should be supporting Liat, you know.
Well,
I don't see how only 3 countries could be supporting Liat and the others expect that Liat will serve them as well.
Well, no, it's being run properly. I guess they would come on board eventually, I would imagine.
I hope so, because
very
our government has been saying that when that happens, they will consider it.
Yes, I think in short order we'll be joining, you know, supporting.
I hope so. I really do hope so. I really do hope
I
so.
might go out on a limb and say that this was not by quota system. I believe she has been very competitive, and if you were to check her,
well, you don't know that. You don't know that.
I guarantee you.
You don't know that. You can't guarantee me that. Because
well, no, I'm telling you. I'm going out on a limb.
You cannot guarantee me that because I'm telling you. And let me tell you,
it's not
there
a
are
quota
other
system.
states. There are other states outside of St. Kitts and Nevis who take in these sustainable development goals very seriously, and they have been implementing. And quota system is not something that is far-fetched in the region. People are going towards quota system because that's the only way you're going to get a level playing field. Okay, when we get to that stage, it just needs to be sustainable now.
There is a country that has a quota system, and they said they want to done away with it, simply because.
Which country is that?
Maybe it is Ceylon, or is it Zimbabwe? Not Zimbabwe. Ceylon is Sri Lanka.
Don't make up things here. Don't make up things.
No, I tell you, I heard it on BBC News.
Hello,
I'm telling you, I heard it.
It is not, I'm not challenging you that you didn't hear something, but the thing is you have to understand context. If it is that we get to the stage that you have equality or you have equal rights
through a quota system,
through a quota system, then of course you can discontinue that once it is sustainable. Once you have a system in place and it's working, okay, so you would have promoted as many women as you can in that thing, and there's a system in place to make sure that it is something that is going to be continuous, then of course you can do away with it. There's nothing that says that you cannot put in a measure now, and once you achieve the goal, that you can discontinue. But the thing is, I bet you, when they say that, they're quite comfortable at the level at which they are now. And it's not that we're regretting putting women in their rightful places.
The word is sustainable.
Right.
Yeah,
sustainable.
And I would like that layout, sustain that level of service that you just spoke of. Otherwise, what? In a sense, it's a woman is at the helm now. What
I can only speak for now because it's happening now.
Okay,
yes.
well,
I've always been a supporter of Liat. I've always been a supporter of Liat, and I've always thought that all of the Caribbean territories should really be supporting Liat.
Well,
It has been with us for the last.
Well, Liat has only
30
survived.
years, whatever.
Has only survived simply because it's been supported by the number of states. But if you were to look
3 or
at
4.
if you look at the airline industry, you'd find so many airlines started and petered out.
Well, we had a lot of them.
Well,
yeah.
you got Caribbean. I'm talking about airlines. Eastern, Pan American, Transworld.
You remember that chap in Antigua who is in prison now, unfortunately?
Stanford.
He had
Yeah.
two airlines.
Mhm.
Caribbean Airlines.
Yeah.
I'm one for the quota system, honestly, because I feel like the female is being kept down for so long. Some kind of fast track system. Need to put them back on the level for them can prove their worth.
Put them back? They were never there.
But get them there.
We're not sure if they were never there.
When you
put them back, I believe they were there before.
Where?
This is a light
I'm almost Asian, and I don't remember that.
This is a light moment, I like Naya how he just made a point. He remind me of Trump. You just say it, right? You just say it, and somebody will believe it.
You just
Maybe we were there before. I believe that.
Yeah.
Right? There before.
Maybe we were there before.
Yeah, who knows?
We cannot say the
When?
When? Mr. Stanley, history doesn't go back 100 years.
A thousand years, a million years.
Look, this thing is
Women
is
has
Europe,
progressed more than they have ever progressed.
It's Europe keep back women. Black people never used to keep back women in African tradition.
Of course they were.
No. I'm not aware of that. But back to the point. It's a very important point. And last week we speak of obligation, and that in that system of what Pat always promulgates. It's very important that we realize the full potential that exists around us in terms of human resource. And I feel like, yes, the ladies need that fast track to put them on that level so that...
But in Nevis, don't you think they're on a fast track? Except for the politics.
Well, I'm not sure. Look, no.
The Deputy Governor General,
it's seriously engraved, Even the very laws that we live up to, the common law. When I read certain feminist writing and so forth, they speak of these things. These laws was made by old men, and they constantly dominate our life, and without much of a consideration for the female, and everything that the woman, can offer. Really, it's. We may say, okay, we need a female prime minister, but the female prime minister still have to live up to the man-made laws, in a wider sense. Okay, say the common law, which was made by.
But are there laws?
So the system is sustained, not sustain. I mean, it's so filthy with just pure man. What authority?
You think, Naya?
Okay.
You think
that is important. It's only fair to me, that the woman is fast track.
You think
to that position.
We're running out of time.
And when you do find a woman in those positions, the woman usually is doing well.
You think you might even get to this stage as you continue this debate and flesh it out? You think you might even get to the stage where, as you just made the point, that the women, they might get there and then they might have to live up to the laws made by men?
Yes.
Think you might even get to the stage as you keep fleshing it out, you end up and you might saying, but come to think of it, we're dealing with women who it can still be a problem because it was made by a man as well.
No, I don't believe
You don't
that.
think you'll get it?
I don't believe. Are you just saying that woman was made by a man?
Yes.
Oh.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. That if you
okay.
think that when you get the debate and you go all the way down, you might end up with a problem because you might end up saying, you know something too? It was made by a man.
Oh,
So maybe you might got
I'll
to
be sure about that.
fix that better. Well. This program repeats tomorrow at 10 o'clock following the VON News Minute. Join the Honorable Mark Brantley tomorrow evening at 8 o'clock for On The Mark. Thank you all again for joining us. This is your voice in the community, thought that get results. You all have a wonderful evening.
Views and opinions expressed on the preceding program were solely those of the participants